Hold on tight for the next hour. You're entering into a place, a zone called the alternative to the alternative media. It's a place, a special place where even truth seekers fear to tread.
All right, people, let's move like we've got a purpose.
Affirmative.
Okay, glad you're back on the Investigative Journal. Greg Anthony here on this January 15, 2018 day on our calendar. We're back again live. I was out for a few days with a major toothache. Yes, I'll leave it at that. But anyway, today I want to discuss a few things that happened in the news regarding Hawaii and a couple other things in the Trump administration, then move to something very much on my mind today, as well as important in understanding the direction of the New World Order, or as I call it, the Vatican-led New World Order. We're going to talk about the crafty and duplicitous Jesuits. They're master deceivers with the goal to destroy America, create a one-world government, a one-world order, totally in control by the elites. And at the top of the pecking order, we have the Pope in Rome, who's masquerading as Christ on earth. And isn't it amazing when you start thinking that we're going to have these lunatic Satanists run the world, and all of their minions in government from Trump on down? Let's talk about Hawaii. I'm sure you've heard by now there was a false flag. There was a guy he pressed a button by accident, and there was a nuclear warning sent out to all the people in Hawaii. The first tweet that it was supposedly an accident came 12 minutes after it happened. The people in Hawaii were notified 37 minutes later, after many were scurrying to bomb shelters, protecting their children, etc., etc. Now, there's many things we can think about what happened here. You're going to hear from the mainstream that it was everything but, from an accident by one person, or that it was an orchestrated effort to bring down Trump and show Trump as this man that's going to bring us to the nuclear brink of war. And of course, that would be a Democratic situation if you're following the Democrat-Republican Hegelian dialectic. They all work together, but that's what you're going to get from the mainstream. Everything from an accident to that this was orchestrated to show that Trump is going to bring the world to nuclear war. We're going to go a step farther, but let me analyze all of those. First of all, an accident, impossible. No way does one man press one button and a nuclear warning goes out. There are fail-safe methods, so that's impossible. Secondly, you have to ask yourself, why was there such a delay in notifying people when a tweet came out 12 minutes later? And then they weren't notified till almost 40 minutes later. And then if we move over and say that it was an orchestrated effort by Democratic insiders, people working for George Soros to put a black stain on the Trump administration, I don't buy that either. Now, that's a more plausible thing, but now let's look at what it could have been. Could it have been an attack planned and it went bad? What I mean is, was it a setup by the cabal, the Vatican-led New World Order cabal, to send a nuke over, blame it on North Korea, and ignite World War II? Or 3. We're into number 3 now. Well, you've heard that on the internet, and I'm just going to propose that to you. Now, think about this. Is there any evidence that the United States has planned these attacks in the past? We've heard a lot about FDR knowing about Pearl Harbor. We've heard a lot about the inside jobs of 9/11. It's very, very plausible that the government can do this. Blame North Korea to ignite a nuclear war. They've done it in many different instances. One that I was privy to was a story that came out and was in fact in the federal courts, proven to be true by a lieutenant colonel in the Vietnam War, who was enlisted to bring down the Prince Sihanouk of Cambodia and make it look like the Viet Cong or the North Vietnamese did it to ignite more war in the lands off of Vietnam into Cambodia, etc., etc. So we are always doing this. So there's a good possibility that this happened and there was a failed attempt, or a number of the other plausible things I mentioned. I'm going to rule out the accident and say that it was either a contrived event to put a black stain on Trump and to play the Hegelian dialectic out right before our very eyes, or it really was the cabal planning to blame this on North Korea. So just a little aside on what's going on in the world. Now, if we look to this madness going on in Washington, D.C., and I call it madness, you're going to get everything from the Democratic left, people who actually believe in these things in America, that global warming exists, that the only way to a better future is no borders. They actually believe all these things, that Trump is a maniac, that Trump is deranged, that Trump is this, that Trump is that. And that's the really sad part, because they haven't gotten to the next level. Now, on the other side, the right, the card-carrying Trumpers and all of the right-wing people in the world are looking at this and saying, no, let's close our borders. Let's make America great again. And they actually believe this. They actually believe all the signs and symbols now, and the stock market rising to new highs, going almost to 26,000, jobs on the rise, Trump saying he's closing the borders. It looks like America's on its way to greatness, right? And these people actually believe in Trump. The problem is they haven't gotten to the next level. And the next level is disturbing, if not 90% accurate. When I say 10, I leave the 10% open because we don't know all of what these people are really capable of. But I do know this, that both sides, both the Democratic left and the Republican right, and all of our presidents in modern times have been put there for a reason, all of them working together for a goal, and whether it be the right wing or the left wing, it's all for the glory of Rome and the Vatican-led New World Order, putting a charge into this world like we've never seen before, from every aspect. And if we don't get to that level and understand this and look at it, and just picture yourself sitting on a podium, sitting above everything and looking down at this and saying, this is exactly what they're doing. They're playing a game with us. They're playing that Hegelian dialectic where the left fights the right, chaos ensues, and they get their synthesis. They get their outcome that they want, no matter what party is involved. So when you say Trump, Obama, Bush, Clinton, they all are on the same team, coming at things from different angles. But yet, let's take it one step farther. The heavyweights in Congress, the heavyweights in the Senate, and the U.S. Congress are also on this team. And so, America, we are just being played like never before. And unless we get to that level to understand the Jesuit duplicity, the reason behind how they've orchestrated this by going back into history and seeing what they've done in the past, even seeing what they've done to this country, how they were instrumental in creating it for an ulterior motive, which is playing out before our eyes now. Now, whether the doomsday scenario and people on the internet are constantly saying every day could be the last, well, every day could be your last. Might not be from them, they've got us from every angle. The food we eat, the water we drink, everything is being polluted. And so, yes, maybe today is your last day, so live it that way. But when we look at the doomsday scenario, they could play this thing out for as long as they want, as long as they get their way. So we've got things coming down that we have to understand. I prefer to take a rational approach at this and look to really the head of the snake, why not go there? You're not going to get this anyplace else. You right-wingers, you're not going to get this from people like on CNN. You left-wingers, sorry. You right-wingers aren't going to get this from Rush Limbaugh. Conspiracy theorists aren't going to get any of this from Alex Jones, although he will now say that the Pope is evil, although that's playing into the hands of the Vatican as well, and I've explained that on many shows. But you're not going to get this full-fledged attempt at understanding how things work behind the scenes. And I'll make it simple. The major leaders of the world, the elite bankers as well, and the elite corporate entities that we all talk about, the elite at the top, along with the Vatican and all of these puppet politicians, no matter what country you may want to talk, from third world regimes like Kim Jong-un in North Korea to supposedly the superpower of the world, the United States, and all those in between, China, Russia, etc., Canada, Mexico, all of these leaders are bought and paid for one goal, and that is to bring the world to its knees with them saying, we will protect you from evil. And they will create this one world order simply because it's easier to control you. And that's exactly what you've seen in the United States. What do you think this push for big government, federalism, all of these laws being unified to control you from California to New York? It's harder to control 50 states doing their own thing, right? Let's say, look at it from a point of view, if you have 50 dance floors, everybody's doing their own dance. It's harder to get you to dance the tune of the world leaders and the Vatican-led world order if there's 50 dance floors. But if you have one dance floor in the United States where you're dancing from, it's pretty easy to get you in lockstep, to get you stepping out to the Vatican-led New World Order. And so history has been presented to people in a false way. And I've tried to retrace the steps and piece together the true story of the Jesuit order in the Vatican through the years. I became interested in this subject when I worked in Rome back in the 80s for 7 years and lived there during one of the biggest scandals the Vatican had ever been involved with financially. And I've talked about that numerous times on my show. But that gave me the impetus to come forward. And as I did, I saw in Europe that there was a little bit more understanding now of this. But when I came back to America, what I found was dead silence, albeit a few people like from Christian ministries that understood this problem. I found that the media at the top was controlled by them. The alternative media was controlled by them. And a voice like mine, and a voice that you can't get very far, has been relegated to a small Christian station with not too many listeners, and then to deal with what's going on the internet, how YouTube, how Facebook, how all of these people can mute. It's called shadow censorship. You don't even know you're being censored, and they can limit the amount of people that see what you do. And all they have are certain words that they put in their algorithms that pinpoint you either as a right-winger, because they don't want America first, really. They don't want America first people. So they're going to mute their voice. And then, of course, they're going to mute anything that has to do with the Jesuit order, the Vatican, and all of these things that I talk about. So the shadow censorship is now in place in America. So do we have freedom of speech on the internet? Of course not. That is one reason why I have few listeners. That is one reason why it's impossible to make a living doing this. They want to mute you out without killing you and telling the people the truth on why they did. But we continue to go forward because the information presented here is quite vital, quite important. And the deceptive Jesuit order should not be overlooked when looking for the true spiritual leaders of what we call the Illuminati, the New World Order, You name it. You got names for it. The Order, etc., etc. The Black Hand. And it's all about America's destruction. And the foundation has been laid on this show, proving that beyond a reasonable doubt, this deceptive Jesuit order and its New World Order minions that I've talked about have made many people the scapegoats for this. They've used the Jews. They've used every possible thing. They've used, people, they will call people like me anti-patriots. Spreading hatred against the Catholic people. Boy, I was Catholic. I grew up Catholic. I don't hate Catholic people, you know that. But I do despise what the Vatican has done and what the Jesuit order has done in their deceptive, hundreds of years of this deception that's still going on today. And this method of deception has been carefully crafted. Yes, it has. Carefully crafted, leaving a clear path of destruction for the real criminals in the U.S. government and the Vatican and other minions, simply by deflecting any criticism and knowledge of their involvement in destroying the liberties and freedom of the American people, as well as the liberties and freedom of the people around the world. And by controlling the major players, media, finance, government, by controlling these entities, they've been able to hoodwink the American people and the world. They've been able to spread a false narrative not only in daily news events, but in history, so that nobody even knows who they are. And with that said, there's still, after all the years that I've been covering this, much to cover about them. The most difficult investigative story you'll ever find, because nobody, even the top people in the news media, know this has to be muted. And so I wonder how many of these people that are on these stations making, a lot of money really know about it, or just turning a blind eye. Because there's been more than 400 years of lost and stolen history, more than that, and it can't be recovered in one short lifetime. That's how they operate. And as our lifetimes pass, as people were talking about this in the 1800s, 1900s, now in 2000, you're seeing less and less of it. But we will embark as much as we can to this study of those who keep us from the truth. And we'll concentrate on numerous things, different countries, different ideas, and basically concentrating on how are they going to bring about this one world organization. But as I went along, years ago I found a website. I don't even know if it's around anymore. It's called Jesuit Love. And it's utilizing the same type of deception and words utilized by the Jesuits when they actually, as a benign group of priests, try to pass off love for hate, peace for war, Jesus for Lucifer. And for those of you who don't want to spend time reading all the things I've written about the Jesuits, reading all the books in history, in my old Arctic Beacon articles and in articles that others have written throughout the centuries, this website adequately recaps most of the information presented in a brief and concise manner. Like I said, I found this years ago, maybe, 12 years ago. And I don't even know if it's on the web anymore, but I do document things. And I wanted to go back and talk about a few of them. And it suggested that all the conclusions that I may make in this show should be researched by you, the reader, as connecting the true dots. And it's vital for the salvation of your own soul, your own family, etc., and basically the salvation of your country, if you really care about it. You see, they've got so many people on the left now, the millennials, they don't care about America anymore. They think America is evil. They want you to be as evil as they are at the top. They don't want you to understand that this could be a great country if it was not for what happened in the outset of this country when it was first formed, and what has been progressing ever since the first president of the United States, 245, Trump. Now, You have to remember that the content and wording, as a lawyer would present a case in closing arguments made to the jury, that's what you should do. And it's a summary I've put together on Jesuit love, using that word in quotes, answering why America should not rule out the Jesuits in the Vatican when looking towards the real enemies controlling the New World Order. Why should you look to them? That's what I'm going to do in the second half hour. Start out with a general statement concerning the order, as a lawyer would do in a case, and give you a reason for looking into them. And I tell you, this is not hate speech. When facts show that this organization throughout the centuries has been involved in this duplicative activity, facts proving it, and facts showing that their proof that they've done it has been muted by the press, where do people go then? So, you have to overcome this hurdle. You have to look at this with open eyes. And I remember from the first time I started arguing with people in the alternative media who said this can't be the truth, or were paid by the Vatican to make it look like it's not the truth. My first argument was only, and still is today, I never wanted people to believe what I said. I wanted to put this story on the table right next to all the other stories that the mainstream and the alternative media put out. And that was not allowed, never will be, and always will be the goal of this radio show. To get people to talk about it openly, using facts and using history that's been taken from us, and putting it right side by side with narratives that we've heard from the time we've been in school to what we're hearing if you turn on any radio station or any TV station in the United States. And I'm sure that goes for stations in France and all over the world, because the United States isn't the only bowling pin they're trying to knock down. This is a worldwide attempt to bring everything together. For the same reason that I mentioned, it's easier to get you to dance to one tune if there's only one dance floor instead of 50 in this country. And that goes for the world. It's easier for them to get you to dance to their tune if there's only one dance floor in this whole world. And they're working for that goal. You think impossible. Oh, really? Hasn't the world really shrunk in your lifetime? And what I mean by that, it's pretty easy to get information from everywhere now and to mold everybody's minds in the same way, isn't it? That's why it's even more important today to be aware of this deception. And I present to you in, the next half hour why you shouldn't rule out the Jesuits in Vatican as the leaders, as the head of the New World Order. I'm going to give you a little clue. They're pretty experienced at it. More experienced than a one-generation president here in the United States. They have to rely on hundreds of years of tested duplicity and deception that the Jesuit order and the Vatican have been working at least since the 1500s, when the Jesuits were put there to destroy Protestantism. And that was their goal. We're going to be back on the Investigative Journal in 3 minutes here on FirstAmendmentRadio.com.
The program you are listening to is 100% sponsored by you, the listener, on this First Amendment Rights Media channel. You will notice that there are few commercials on this radio network. There's a good reason for that. Corporate advertising dollars come with strings that limit program content. So without your help, these programs cannot continue on internet or our several affiliates. If you benefit by the educational law programs, we ask you to give. If you are admonished or nurtured by the Bible and ministry programs, we ask you to give. If some voice a cause that you are passionate about, we ask you to give. If you believe in any of these, we ask you to support them as you would a missionary on a continual basis, as if giving a tithe for missionary radio. These programs are not commercially viable and must be supported by those faithful to the cause of truth. Look for the button to sponsor your favorite programs at our listen and schedule pages on the internet. Then, when you subscribe, we will send you the last quarterly MP3 CD of that program immediately, and continue to do so with each new quarter. We will also give you unlimited archive access to all of our programs. We're asking you to give much less than a tithe, so that you may also send support directly to a particular program host, cause, and anywhere else the Spirit may lead you. Do all to the glory of our God and Creator, for His holy nation, the only kingdom that will last forever. Thank you for listening.
Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org. When it comes to prophecy today, much of the evangelical Christian world has their eyes on Israel, waiting and watching to see when the third temple will begin to be built. The plans are drawn. The Jewish people are eager. Most evangelical Christians today believe that the rapture will happen before the third temple is built. Hi, I'm Michael Eugene. I was taught that Daniel's 70th week was in the future. Is that really what the Bible teaches? Have we searched the Scriptures and found this to be true? Why is it so important for a re-established Israel to build a third temple in Jerusalem? Is it necessary to build a temple on the same location already occupied by the Dome of the Rock? Is it necessary for sacrifices to take place in the temple on Temple Mount? Is there really a rapture followed by 7 years of tribulation? What is the New Testament temple? Can we identify history and prophecy? Who is the first beast in Revelation chapter 13? Who are the 7 kings in Revelation 17? I have asked all these questions, and I have found Nicholas Arthur's new book, When the Third Temple is Built, answers all these questions and more using Scripture to interpret Scripture. The Bible says that no prophecy of Scripture is of any private interpretation. Nicholas shows us in his new book, When the Third Temple is Built, how the Bible interprets prophecy and not man's private interpretation. Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org.
The following program is labeled dangerous and off limits by the supreme Jesuit command. But stand tall, people. Listen up, and you may just learn something.
Oh, dear Lord Jesus, this ain't happening, man. This can't be happening, man. This ain't happening.
Okay, yes, we're back on the Investigative Journal, and we're going to get right to a general statement, an opening statement concerning the Jesuit order and the Vatican and why they have to be considered a major player. But first I wanted to mention that a show like this can become tiresome. And if you think about it, think of a horse race. And a horse that's in that race that runs forever but knows he's never going to win. Can he keep running? Can he make it to the finish line? And although I use that simple analogy, I want to show you why winning the race really isn't that important. It's running the race that is. And what I mean by that is everything that you read about politics or even spirituality, it's always that race to the finish line, right? We want our party to win the election. We want our campaign to win. We want to be the winners. You even hear Trump say it millions of times. The more you'll get so tired of me winning, you'll say, Mr. President, don't win anymore. And even in the spiritual world, we have this race to the end, right? And what do you win there? You win eternal life. But are you really racing to the end when you're really looking for a victory in your heart and in your soul. I don't believe so. I don't believe we can look at this show as a win-win situation. I don't even think it's important to have that word in your vocabulary. Because, folks, you've already won. You've already been given the greatest gift that anybody could give you. And all you do, especially in this show, is by learning one thing at a time regarding something that may seem so outlandish and out of the question. You've won. Even if you lose, in a sense, in the real world, even if you lose, and if, as the pundits would say, your message isn't being believed. Your party isn't winning. Who is your party? You've won already. And so what I say is, on a show like this, we're not running to the finish line, hopefully to defeat the Jesuit order, hopefully to defeat the Vatican. They're already defeated. And so all we're doing is alerting people of what's really going on. And if you think about it, if you look at it from the Western civilization idea of salvation, and I'm going to just use it as an example for other religions to think about. If you're saved in America, if you're saved and you want to go to heaven, you have every bit of tool every day to do that. And you're not running a race to the end to get there. You're winning that race every day. Not even worrying about winning it. You're not even in a race. It's just there for you, and it's been given to you, according to Western civilization Christianity, the true Bible, through grace, through the grace of God. He's given it all to you already. All you have to do is accept it. And so, when we talk about that eternal race, you've already got it if you accept that, as far as if you're a Christian in Western civilization. Just a little aside. Before I give you my opening statement, much of which will be backed by fact, and much of which can be backed by fact, if it was allowed to be put on that table of truth. 400 years, 500 years, the Jesuit, I call it a Jesuit army, has been fighting a covert war for the absolute control of the world. Yes, folks, just like the old Roman Empire. A masterful army of spies and assassins. They have in the past been expelled from most every country in Europe. They have arranged most wars for the last 300 years, if you want to think about it. They initiated and controlled the U.S. Civil War to transform the United States into a central controlled tool of their own conquest of the world. They placed Hitler in power, Stalin in power, Mao in power, Pol Pot in power, the presidents of the United States in power, the presidents of Australia, Canada, England, and other places in power, Kim Jong-un in North Korea in power, the Soviet Union, China, and they've been responsible for many more inquisitions in history than you've read about. They now use the United States to perpetrate their inquisitions. Yes, they use the military arm of the Roman Empire or the Vatican to perpetrate these inquisitions, as they did in Korea and Vietnam, and as they're doing again in the Middle East and Iraq, etc. The goal they have is simple and glorious, a one-world government. Sounds easy, a new world order, a one-world religion, with the Pope on the throne and the Jesuit general in control of the Pope. And now you have both a Jesuit Pope and a Jesuit general, who are both Jesuits, and the empire of the world right at their very feet, without you even knowing what they've done. The secret services such as the MI6, KGB, CIA are all controlled by them. If you remember many of the stories we did, the old OSS, transformed into the CIA, was the masterminding of the old OSS officers in Rome after World War II and Pope Pius XII, working together to create the CIA. Presidents elected and popes and presidents are killed by them. They are the army of the Vatican, in control of the Vatican, and they hide behind these secret societies such as Freemasonry and others, which they also control, and now control much and work with corporations such as Microsoft, Bank of America, Lockheed, and many more. As they said on this website, Jesuit Love, as I'm paraphrasing from much of it, it's dedicated, and this opening statement is dedicated to these glorious achievements of the Jesuit Brotherhood, the Society of Jesus, for all of you to know. Now, you one world order people, you people who are now in America, half the population or more saying, yes, open borders, New World Order looks good. You should love these people. You should be on the side of the Jesuit treachery, correct? As previous General, and we've quoted this many times in this show, General Tamburini said, "Save, sir, from this chamber, I govern not only Paris but China, not only China but the whole world, without anybody knowing how I do it." Yes, folks, in that one statement, which lives on today through every Jesuit general, you've understood what they've done. They control from Paris to the United States to China, all over, without anybody knowing how they do it. Now, the end of this fabricated Cold War, remember, marked a turning point in the careful fight waged over the last 400 or 500 years since the Protestant Reformation by this Jesuit Brotherhood. Let's remember the end of the Cold War, which now has given rise to the Jesuit-controlled ISIS and all of these nuclear problems we're seeming to have with Iran and North Korea. The long-awaited New World Order, folks, has been upon us for a long time, but is being seen by more and more every day, isn't it? Absolute control of the world via the Holy Roman Empire. And I find it amusing, very amusing. Just an aside, if you follow politics like I have to, one of the more, flamboyant but yet articulate right-wing former House Speaker and commentator on Fox News, Newt Gingrich, has so much praise for the Pope, it's almost amazing, right? And guess what? His wife has now been selected as the ambassador to Rome. And I noticed recently in the news that she was there accepting the position, and she was standing, they took a picture of her with the Pope, and she was in a black hooded dress, looking almost like a Catholic nun. Very, very revealing to those of us who know the symbolism behind that. They also went together, Newt Gingrich and his wife and the Pope, to the funeral of Archbishop, remember the Mr. Law, Archbishop or Cardinal Law, the pedophile who covered up pedophilia? They were all there honoring his funeral. Find that very revealing, don't you? So it goes on to this day. This long-awaited New World Order has been with us, and it's now upon us. Absolute control of the world via this Holy Roman Empire, Isis, Horus, Set, is no longer a secret necessary to maintain, maybe. Maybe they've gone so far that they don't care anymore. So, let the truth be told then, folks. Why don't you hear it then on the mainstream news? Why don't you hear it everywhere? Well, they're still playing their duplicitous hand. Let the truth be told, though. Let the world belongs to the Black Pope. Why can't we say that out loud? Why can't we say it in school? Why can't we even say it on Martin Luther King Day? Do you think they really care about black people? Do you think they really care about white people? Brown people? Yellow people? No. We're all in the same boat, folks, whether you're black, white, or yellow. We're all just extras in this movie horror show they're presenting to us. The Jesuit Brotherhood is now in this phase of I would call it consolidating everything. The ever heretical United States and Canada will soon be the hallowed grounds of the new Inquisition. What do you think they selected the first inquisitor? There's an office of the Inquisition now in San Francisco. We forget about that. They give it another name now. The office of Inquisition is given this, the Holy Apostolic, blah, blah, blah. And the first bishop in charge as the inquisitor is the first American in San Francisco. Yes, because the Inquisition will be taking place right here. And it's ongoing. Now, the Jesuits, under the Jesuit servants that worked for them, were Hitler, Stalin, Mao, many others. The cleansing will be complete. The Protestants will convert or be annihilated. Their freedoms will be destroyed, as subservience to the Jesuit general is no longer a privilege but a requirement. The non-believers will be slain for the greater good and greater glory of the Jesuit-controlled Vatican Empire. Jesuit-controlled actors like Bush, Gore, Clinton's, Obama, Trump are serving the order. And that's what you don't get anywhere. What are some of the achievements? I'm going back to this website, Jesus Jesuit Love. What are some of their great achievements? And all of you One World Order people, New World Order people, must love them. Because you haven't really gone to the next level to really understand what they're doing to you. They've made lending of money an interest and noble occupation. They place Jews in positions where fault or blame can be placed in the future. They exterminate heretic leaders and key components of that leadership that opposes them. They arrange for puppet leaders like Hitler, Mao, Stalin, Trump, Kim Jong-un, and others now in the leaderships of England and Australia, just to name a few, Mexico. They arrange for the slaughter of the indigenous infidels. They institutionalize the corporation to compete with the individual. The establishment of a central government for the United States. They established the United States Federal Reserve Bank, which isn't federal. Control and facilitate the secret societies, including Freemasonry. Centralize inner power by controlling the nation's secret services, i.e. the CIA, KGB, MI6, to name a few. Fabricate conflicts such as the Cold War and terrorism that we see today. Create artificial events, false flag events such as 9/11 and many others that you see every day on the news today. They control the thinking by controlled education, history, controlled media. They maintain a conscript army through economic repression and inquisition. They repress technology and understanding. They hide, for example, Nikola Tesla, and they promote Einstein. They manage the health of the populace. And you New World Order people, you people on the left, maybe half or more of America, you must love these people. How come you don't talk about them in these glowing terms? Either you don't know, or you still are playing that duplicitous, deceptive Jesuit game. How about the Jews and the Jesuits? The Jews, folks, have long been the whipping dog of the Jesuit-controlled Vatican. As the killers of Jesus, and time and time again they have been made to suffer, and more so as a competitor to Christianity. Among their ranks of any group are always individuals recognizing their true worth as lapdogs of the Jesuit order. And wouldn't you know it? That if you really look at the Knesset, the Congress or the controlling body of Israel and its leader, they're in the pocket of the Jesuits. They've sold out their own people. What have they done? Who owns the Temple Mount? Vatican owns it, and they bought it in the 90s. Oh yes, the Knesset, The top leaders of Israel have sold out their people, just like the American government has sold out their people, thanks to the duplicitous hand of the Brotherhood of the Jesuits. Of course, these people, no matter who you look at in the government, they're entirely disposable. Karl Marx was one such lapdog that served the order's purposes. Communism is a form of our own Catholic totalitarian rule. Who was the group that invented communism with the Paraguay reductions in the 1600s? The Jesuit order. A lot of words I'm giving you to research, right? But all the words that should be on the table of truth, along with what we supposedly hear as the truth from the mainstream and the alternative media, all of these words should be put on the table. But all of these words, folks, when you start talking in these terms, are being muted by what? Most of us communicate now on the internet, right? It's an easy way. But it's also an easy way to control communication and to keep communication from people. And they do it from what's called shadow. It's called shadow, dominance. They dominate what they hear by shadow controlling everything you say with all algorithms that the words I'm talking about here will immediately be tagged and censored. Shadow censorship is what I'm getting at. Controlled by the minions of the Vatican-led New World Order and Facebook and YouTube and all the other places, so that these words, once put into the computer, will then minimalize the amount of people that will read them, see them. Whereas you'll get some stupid YouTube that gets 50 million views. In other words, they want to keep you dumbed down the best they can. And they also want to keep what General Tamburini said, the Jesuit general. They want to control the world without knowing how they do it. And this is just one thing they do. Now, communism they've created is a form of Catholic totalitarian rule. Like I said, the communist lands have well facilitated the good slaughter of heretic Christian infidels, as well as how many millions of Russian Orthodox. In other words, the communist totalitarian worlds facilitate the continuation of the great Vatican Catholic Inquisition, so necessary to the cultivation of the one world Vatican-led New World Order. Just look at what happened in Rwanda and what's going on in Africa. And the Pope calls himself a friend of the black people. There you go. How about the wars? We can end today's show. I always love this. I've only got 4 minutes. Why don't I pick this up tomorrow? But just give you a taste of what I want to talk about here, and that's the countless wars arranged for the resurrection of the Jesuit Holy Roman Empire. For ISIS, for Horus. Isn't it interesting they use the word ISIS as the terrorist organization of the world now, threatening the world? If you really do a search and understand what that really means, you'll realize they are in control of this. It's all for the greater glory of the Jesuit Vatican and the Jesuit general. The black pope, the white pope, they're both the same now, right? The true rulers of the world. Wow, so we got World War I. We're just going to talk about the major ones. World War I, World War II, Korea, Vietnam, Bosnia, the Gulf War, Iraq, Spanish Civil War, Mexican Civil War, the Second French Revolution, the Russian Revolution, the Mexican War of Reform, the American Civil War, the German-Austrian War, the American Revolution, the end of the Japanese shogunate, the Franco-Prussian War, the Dreyfus Affair. And that's just the number of ones they have been orchestrating. And people always say to me, wow, well, how could they have orchestrated the Revolutionary War in America? How come we haven't heard a word? Oh, I love those shows. I love going back in the history, reading some of the things that one of our great historians knew about when he was the transcriber of the Continental Congress and was the guy that everybody back then said the man of truth. And boy, those shows are great because he knew who created this country. And he called it, what was it? The Agency of Providence. Do your homework on what that really means. And he was, he didn't want to go totally public because it would have really destroyed this kind of false narrative we have about our founding fathers that everyone looks up to today. Failing to mention some of the other ones. And I don't know why you New World Order people, you people on the left who love this idea of open borders, one world governments, and all of these things that supposedly is going to bring a great world all together, kumbaya, we can all sing together. How come you don't like the idea of, just what I said? How come you don't want to tell the really truth about how the Jesuits are doing this? It would seem to me that you would respect these people. But is it that either you really don't want to know the truth about it, or you're covering for them? It's got to be one or the other. Because I don't think you'd want to back one world government if you knew how it really is going to operate. I don't really think you're going to do that. And maybe that's the Pope. Hey, there's a Jesuit order calling me right now. Maybe that's it. And they'll leave a voicemail, all right? Oh, they keep calling. Oh, boy. Anyway. Oh, there they are. But anyway, that's the way. What an ending to the show. We'll be back tomorrow. I'll take that call from the Vatican. Come back tomorrow on the Investigative Journal.
The book of Revelation says, the spirit of prophecy is the testimony of Jesus Christ. This is at the very heart of FirstAmendmentRadio.com. In that spirit, we have created the Prophecy Reality News app for all of your mobile devices, streaming First Amendment Radio 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Available for your Apple, Android device, and smartphone, absolutely free. Get the Prophecy Reality News app installed today so you can listen to First Amendment Radio wherever you are. The Prophecy.
Since the beginning of time, kings have sought it, nations have fought for it. It has been traded, it has been borrowed, it has been purchased, it has been stolen. There's a reason for it. To secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity. Invest with the security of gold and silver. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188 or visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net. Listen to Financial Survival with your host Melody Cedarstrom right here on FirstAmendmentRadio.com at 4 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net or call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free 1-800-375-4188.